sometimes there's someone that's so attractive that you just can't stop thinking about them. I've been there. And you do almost anything to have them in your life. So how successful could this possibly be?
If it's all about you and how much of a spark you feel, you're already lost. Because you haven't put the time into figuring out who that person is. So then you're chasing a spark. And mostly if you're chasing a spark, that ends in horrendous disasters. I mean, horrendous disasters, right?
Oh, yes.
We can attest to this. Feel free to ask us anything about this, yeah. But if there's a spark and now you're mature enough, practical enough, left-brained enough to get some evidence, to vet this person. Is this person really somebody that I would want to be with? Is this somebody who meets my needs? Is this someone who could give me respect and monogamy? And is this person financially stable? Is this person attractive enough for me? Is this person emotionally stable? You know, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody has certain key needs that are very similar, and I mentioned a few of them. But again, it's understanding which is the most important for you. So if sex appeal is the most important for you, you've got to be wary about whether that person is monogamous or not, if that's important. Because sexy and monogamous are two separate quadrants. They don't go together. If you want somebody who's very wealthy and very powerful and very sweet to you, help, because those are two separate quadrants and they don't usually go together. And so you have to be very clear what's number one, what's number two, what's number three, what's number four. And then you can go through the possible candidates online and you'll be way ahead of yourself finding people who are potential candidates and husbands and wives and lovers for you.
Wonderful. A reality check always helps. I know that we've talked about the opposite. So now, how about a relationship when someone is obsessed with you?
Well, you were talking about stalking, and stalking is something that's only become part of the common language for about 20 or so years. You know, I know that the big stalking story was that actress who was stalked by a fan and nobody paid attention, and then she was killed. And as soon, that's the thing about fame. When something horrible like Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered, then domestic violence laws changed radically. And I benefited from that because my separation happened right after, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year after the OJ trials. In the case of stalking, and it's sad that I can't remember her name now, but I can remember her face and how it was all over the news. And nobody paid much attention to women who were stalked until this young actress was killed. So if you're a man and you are really putting the pressure on somebody, it's uncomfortable for most women and often for some men. But more importantly, it doesn't usually work, so be careful. So stalking, of course, is illegal. But more importantly, it's that ick factor, right?
Absolutely.
It's just really icky. Now, you can improve yourself. What I say to people is, you don't have to try to chase them down, like a deer, with a Land Rover, but you can improve yourself. What is it about you that isn't really up to par? You can go to the gym more often and look better. You can do a million things to look better. You can go up for bigger jobs, better jobs, and get one of them. You can find a better place to live that you can still afford and make it wonderful. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how to do 1,000 things. So if you really want somebody, I'm here to tell you, those guys eventually proposed to me, but I had to really make myself into somebody in certain cases. Not all the proposals, but some of them, I had to really work at it.
To be aware. I love that, Susan. Bless you. Now, we're going to be going into a video clip now, and I wonder if you'd please help us to understand what this is about.
Yes, this is my favorite. This is Mrs. Gary. This is a new episode with Mary Beth and Lisa. and they are hysterical. And this is about obsession. This is how obsession can go from bad to worse very, very quickly. It's not about intimacy, but you'll be able to make the connection. So please enjoy this.
We were very rich. I was very happy. Then my husband became a knife sharpener. A knife sharpener! Now he's happy and I'm Mrs. Gary. Gary!
This is the first time I've used this teapot since we moved out of Bel Air. Since my husband Gary became Gary the knife sharpener and changed the course of our lives.
Well, it is beautiful. I'm sure it brings back a lot of memories.
It does. It reminds me of when we were rich. But I still want the cash, the cold hard cash.
Will you take $5?
It's worth thousands. It's marked 50.
10.
20, and I'll throw in the tray. Look at this. This is over $200. High five here, girlfriend. Woo!
Now, Mrs. Gary, what about the intervention? I see that you're back in your robe.
Mrs. Gary, don't you have a seat?
Not so fast, Jack! I've had a relapse. The robe is comforting.
Yeah, but the yard sale is a great success.
And I still have some of my best stuff yet.
Yes, well, these are the most expensive items. It's going to be hard to sell them.
Don't people know the value and quality when they see it?
I think you need to come down on the price.
No, I need to create interest in these higher priced items. Oh my God, this punch bowl. It's straight out of the Betsy Ross collection. Oh my God. Antiques Roadshow, here I come. Oh my God, it's Eve Pressington, one of our Bel Air neighbors. And the biggest snob, and even a bigger gossip. Oh my God, this punch bowl. Betsy Ross. Amazing. Oh.
I recognize that voice. Is that you? Me, it's me, Eve. Eve Pressington.
Oh. Hello, Eve.
Hello, Mrs. Gary. We haven't seen each other in ages. What are the odds we'd run into each other at a yard sale? In this neighborhood, no less. Well, I have to tell you that it is a hobby of mine to go into down and out neighborhoods and look for treasures. Treasures that people like this have absolutely no idea about. I did hear you talking about this punch bowl.
Well, I have a very loud voice.
And you have a lot of knowledge about this punch bowl. Is it yours?
No, it's not mine. It's hers. It's her yard sale. Tell her.
It's my yard sale.
I, too, like to shop for treasures.
Well, it's perfect, and I want it.
Well, so do I.
It seems that we have a bidding war.
It's marked $50.
I'll pay 100.
150.
175.
200.
250.
It's yours.
I win.
What a lark.
Here you go, Anna. Miss Anna, I don't know your name. It's wonderful to see you, Eve.
And you.
I'm going to take my fabulous punch bowl and go home. Ta-ta!
I let her have it. I thought it might do her some good to have a moment. Gary was at my estate last week sharpening the knives. Such a nice man. And such sharp knives.
How much for this?
Is she gone?
You just bought your own punch bowl.
I couldn't help myself. I had to win.
Well, you won all right. You could have been $250 richer.
Well, at least I got a good deal. And Eve didn't get it. And I still have my priceless family heirloom.
The Betsy Ross punch bowl.
Oh my God. Oh my God. My robe.
I think these women are among the funniest comedic actresses that, really there are. Now, you saw this part where you get so carried away by emotion that you stop being rational, right? And we've all done it, or at least we've all done it, Gigi and I. And presumably you've done it at some point in your life. So that's the thing. And that happens a lot at auctions, by the way. That happens a lot in yard sales and estate sales and at flea markets. And, I've had that experience as well, being caught up in really wanting something and buying it and paying an outrageous amount of money to get it. And so it's about consciousness. All of this, everything we're talking about, relationships, all of it, it has to do with how present are you in the moment? How present are you in your body? Are you clear about your goals? And of course, that's what this is all about. That's what the 6 part's all about. That's what my Heartspace system is all about.
Very nice. I enjoy those girls so much. Our next question, getting back into this love, what do people really need to tell themselves in the moment that this love addiction kicks in?
Well, you have to get in the habit of thinking logically and rationally and analytically. That's the upper left brain. And you have to get in the habit of forcing yourself to do that before you take action. That's the most common problem, which is the one that I always had. So I would get an idea, that's the yellow part of the brain, up there. And then I would just get a feeling about it. Oh, this feels great, this is wonderful, this is great. And then boom, I'd be off and running into the green quadrant taking action. And every time you do 3 out of 4 quadrants, you are in big trouble. The axe is just about to fall. Instead, you have to have enough awareness of how you've gotten into trouble in the past that you refuse to do it again. Post the whole brain map all over your house, your apartment. Make sure it's on your phone, so you look at it. Make sure it's the screensaver. Make sure you just don't let yourself forget this until it's in your bones, in your brain. Then you get an idea, upper right, yellow, and force yourself to logically analyze it. Is that a good idea? Is that a great idea? What proof do I have that this idea is really going to work? What proof do I have that I'm going to get my needs met? Then you can get excited and feel great about it, and then you can take action. That's the most important thing that you need to shift.
Those self-check-ins, to really pay attention. Oh, that could have saved me a lot of grief.
Decades of grief for any of us. Decades. If you're our age, we're talking about 20, 30 years. If you accumulate all the misery and all that, yeah, dead ends.
Oh, we're not alone in that, I'm sure.
Of course not. Yeah, of course not.
Well, let's explore, what about the people who are really looking for a partner for financial support, or let's say a more expensive lifestyle? Can that possibly work out?
You know, I honestly believe that that's the underlying problem with most of the Hollywood marriages. You know that the other part is they have too many choices. They go off and do a movie, they're making love with somebody in the movie, now they fall in love with each other, they leave their partners. Okay, that's a whole different part of it. But the fact is that this trophy wife thing is so unsuccessful. It's just so unsuccessful because by and large, at least one of the people is marrying the other for fame and fortune. Now, even in Jane Fonda's 3 marriages, every one of her husbands cheated on her. And this is a tragic but really powerful example because, you know, Jane Fonda was a very famous actress. She also did all those fabulous exercise tapes. She was in great shape. She was very famous, the daughter of Henry Fonda, a major, major, major Hollywood star. So you would think that people fell in love with her and stayed in love with her, unless there was something fundamentally wrong with those marriages, which obviously there was. So she was the trophy, and trophies don't get real love and real devotion because it's such a superficial thing. And you have to be very careful about that. So when I say make yourself more beautiful, make yourself more this, make yourself more that, it's so that someone really loves you and that you have proof that someone really loves you. Not so you just get a better quality of con man and salesman. So take that warning carefully, please.
Perfectly put. So now how can someone actually build an intimate relationship without, let's say, either partner feeling as if they were suffocating?
That's very tricky because you have to constantly do what I call take the temperature of your relationship. You have to constantly check, am I meeting my partner's needs for personal space and intimacy? Am I meeting my own needs for personal space and intimacy? And if this is interesting to you, please send me an email and I'll send you my article on that because it's an important distinction that most people don't understand about. You can choke somebody or you can leave somebody feeling that they're, you know, in outer space, and you have to do something in between.
Thank you, Susan. Can you motivate a long-term partner to want to learn your tantric lock?
Yeah, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're having sex, Tantra is a tremendous, tremendous asset and tool. And the way to motivate them is by letting them know that sex is going to be a million times better. And it really does make a gigantic difference. So just by explaining to them or having them go online and saying, you know, sex is going to be that much better. And there is this one video that is fabulous called The Secrets of Female Sexual Ecstasy by Charles Muir, M-U-I-R. And that's on Amazon. It's like $27. And get that one, and that will explain a lot of the basics to you. Of course, you have to practice with somebody, but the video will get you to the beginning at least.
Wonderful information. And what is the key to the Tantra?
The key is the deep level of emotional connection you make. And most people just understand Tantra as you stop and you start and you stop and you start. But the point is that when you stop, you're still connected emotionally and still looking at each other and still present with one another and still having sex. But you've stopped for a moment, and then when necessary, then you begin again. And what this does is it builds up an enormous amount of passion and excitement, and it's fabulous. But here's the key. You're not going to be able to do this with someone you don't find you have a real spark with. And neither is your partner. So one of the great things about Tantra is you'll get really bored and lose interest. If you have to be this present and this conscious with somebody, you'll really not be able to do it if there isn't a multi-dimensional connection between both of you. Or one of you may be able to do it, but the other won't. And that's something that's great because the problem with all these people on Match.com they're going to date you, they're going to sleep with you, they're going to dump you, they'll date you, they'll sleep with you, they'll dump you. They wouldn't be able to do any of that if you had the ability to motivate them to do Tantra, during your first sexual experience, or motivate them to learn how to do it, after which time you then would be sexy with them. If you can figure this out, you can prevent all of that misery and suffering.
That turned out to be quite a sexy answer. Thank you. Let's remind everyone, though, that we can never get back the time that we have spent on a relationship that's going nowhere.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
You bet.
That's sad but true.
And if you don't learn how to analyze it and dissect it, if you will, and really vet people, if you don't really understand who you are and what your needs are, and if you don't understand the different candidates online and what they're looking for, and is it a good match, and when you meet them and you go out on a date, if you're not able to see whether that person's a good match or not, then that's a crisis. That's a real catastrophe waiting to happen. At the same time, if you're somebody who goes out a lot and nobody's biting, nobody's interested, then you've got to know that there's some sort of a disconnect. And it's really important. I mean, we know that there are basic things. I remember on The Man Show, it was certainly not politically correct, but it was very funny. This guy said on The Man Show many years ago, doesn't she understand all a woman has to do to well, this is TV, so let me be a little bit more circumspect. Doesn't she understand that all she has to do to have sex is lose some weight? Now, you may not like this answer, but it's very true. Doesn't she understand that in order to have sex, she needs to make more of an effort about her appearance, is also part of it. And yeah, it's true, there are men and women who like every possible type. Of course. But if you're so committed to the package that you're presenting and you're not getting the results you want, then it would be like trying to get a mortgage again and again and again and again. And you want to buy the house, but nobody will give you a mortgage. And you want to buy the house, and nobody will give you the mortgage. How many times are you going to have somebody present the same package to a different mortgage broker and get the same answer before you say, uh-oh, I need to borrow some money, or I need to change my financial picture in order to buy a house, or something like that? So a reality check, as Gigi likes to say.
Thank you, Susan. That's the truth. Now, I know that this is a very common thing that I hear about a lot, that there's so many missed opportunities for decades because they can just disappear. So how can someone save themselves from continuing on a path that is really a dead end?
You know, this is so fascinating. I remember hearing some people I've worked with tell me that they dated him or they dated her, and then some unbelievable number of years, 9 years, 7 years, 5 years, before they realized that either they would never marry their partner or their partner never would marry them. So that could mean, even though that partner may want to get married, you would never say yes in a million years. So presumably, if you never want to get married, that's fine, but most of you have never said that to me. I've said that to you. I've said marriage was not for me. It's a mistake I made. I gave into, cultural, that whole thing, but I was never a marrying person, so I shouldn't have done it. But I've never heard people say that. They feel it's embarrassing to admit that. But actually, this new friend who I spoke to today, we were talking about this. We agreed, because he's never been married. And I said, wow, you must run really fast. And he thought that was very funny. And I said, but attractive, intelligent, successful guy who's never been married. I know a bunch of them myself. But you got to be really clever, because how are you going to avoid it? So that's one part of it. At the same time, be very clear about what you want. If you want a baby, you've got a limited amount of time. Very common nowadays that a woman will have a baby with someone who would be a great baby daddy, even if you're thinking that 7 years from now, when the child is pretty functional, you're going to move on. Well, pretty commonplace, but that partner could be pretty angry 7 years from now. And that could throw the whole thing sideways, right? So you have to be very careful, and that's called goal-reaching skills. What are your goals? What do you want?
Very clear. And I know we have limited time left, but how can someone really remind themselves to just stop if today they are pursuing a hopeless relationship?
Well, you know, the title of tonight's show is What I Did for Love. And I can't say that I regret the years that I spent with my former fiance, Alexis. I don't regret ending the relationship the first time around. I don't regret letting the relationship come back together 12 years later. I certainly don't regret that I didn't marry him. I don't regret that at all. But when I look at all that time and all that effort, it is kind of, you know, revolting. But he was a brilliant and fascinating and irresistible guy, so I learned so much along the way. So you have to look at it philosophically. But if you're still in that place, I would say to you, is this what you want for yourself? Because if you're someone who really wants to get married, and if you want to have children, and if you want to have a stable home life with somebody, if family is important to you, you can't do this. You can't make the choices I made. If family is important to you, you have only one option. You must pick a legitimate and stable and sane partner who's nice and kind and cooperative and generous. That's the only way you can build a family.
Well, that sounds like it can have a very happy ending. Thank you, Susan. Thank you for letting us know that we all do have the opportunity to decide what we can, how we can become love and to watch it grow, how we can have it, watch it grow or not. And as we observe what's happening, we can decide whether to move forward or not. So give Susan a call. Believe me, if you need help to get some clarity on that, that's really a wonderful gift that you offer. So in closing, I would just like to remind all of you that Susan Allan has a lovely column all the time here in our Ask the Love and Relationship Coach in our Santa Barbara Family Life magazine. This is available online as well at www.sbfamilylife.com. Susan Allan, to remind you, is a life coach, a happy life coach. So it's a good thing. And you can contact Susan also, susanallan.org, or for that one gift of the free hour phone call, that would be 805-695-8405. Other ways, Susan